Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mondays Down South. It's been a long time coming, but Ev and I are here. We're more than excited to dive back into sports content. We're going to do things a little bit differently. I know we usually jump around multiple sports and we end up losing control and losing our train of thought over what we were talking about previously. We're going to stick to two sports. We're going to go boxing, which we all know what's coming here, the Jake Paul-Ben Askren match that nobody wants to talk about. We have to talk about it, E, because I know you watched – well, I know you actually didn't watch it. I watched it, but I wasn't one of the many sorry fans that bought the pay-per-view, which was the true crime. And pivoting after boxing, we're going to get right back into the NFL draft. 1 week away, very exciting things, a lot of recent trades that we'll discuss in the near future here. But Ev, any initial thoughts over what's transpired in the sports world?
Yeah, man, it's good to be back on. And like you said, it's been a while, but we had to give ourselves a little downtime because next week we're going to hammer a lot of draft content. I think a 2-episode week, including a live episode for everyone. But yeah, I mean, we have to do like off the top, just, I think it's funny that we're not talking any NBA, but we both decided to throw on our basketball jerseys for no apparent reason. The Wizards are white hot and creeping in on a playoff spot. Although sadly, one of our rookie that might have dislocated his ankle about 10 minutes ago. So, and we're chasing down your 8 seed Hornets.
Yeah, we've been slipping lately.
What's that?
Looking at the standings as we speak, we've been slipping lately. We're only on a 1-game lose streak, but our last 10 were 3-7. So, not something you want to see, especially with guys going down with injuries. Gordon Hayward's out for, I think, another 2 or 3 weeks. LaMelo Ball, which, was previously reported, and I will say erroneously reported to miss the entire season, is coming back in a week. So maybe he'll be our knight in shining armor. But what's been the success behind the Wizards lately, Ev?
Russell Westbrook, man, he's playing out of his mind. Beal hasn't even been playing that good lately, but Russell Westbrook has been just like tearing it up. And a lot of the role players have played well too. Ever since we traded for Daniel Gafford at the deadline, we kind of swapped him with Mo Wagner and Troy Brown Jr., who doesn't play for us anymore. And Daniel Gafford's been huge for us as well. But Westbrook's just been an absolute animal lately. And our schedule's been pretty light, so that helps. But we'll see. A tough injury today, so we'll see if they can hang on to at least get into that little play-in tournament. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more NBA in me. The other thing we got to do is we got to talk about the other fights coming up this weekend. Huge card coming up, so looking forward to that one. But I guess, where do you want to start? You want to start in the fight game?
We might as well just knock out UFC real quick, speculative, and then we can switch over to boxing and mention it. The UFC fight coming up, it really is interesting. This is the first, full capacity arena. I'm not sure how many, what the capacity limits are, but nevertheless, that's exciting. Step in the good direction with the vaccine news and everything like that. So I'm excited for the Usman-Masvidal rematch. I don't think the result is going to be any different. I think Masvidal had his 2-3 fight period of fame. I mean, this is a seasoned veteran. This is a guy who has almost 40 professional bouts in the sport, and he didn't necessarily become a credible name until that 2-3 fight stretch. So I think Usman is a focused guy. I think he has all aspects of the fighting game. One that's going to be really problematic for Masvidal is going to be wrestling. I can see him I can see him ragdolling him this fight, much like what he did with Tyron Woodley, and no one had previously expected that. So, That's what I think about the fight. I am excited, Ev, about Colby potentially getting that title shot. I would like to see that rematch, considering Usman and Colby are both wrestlers. They respected the wrestling game the first time they fought, and because of that, it turned into a straight up snipe fest where they were just trading shots and they were pretty much standing up the entire time. But yeah, Ev, what do you think about the result of the bout?
Yeah, no, completely agree. I'm shocked. I think I mentioned this before. Like, I'm shocked Masvidal took the fight because in the first time around, he obviously had that easy excuse, like had to cut 30 pounds on short notice. You know, took the last minute fight. So he had that built-in excuse. But you know, his, I mean, reputation, so to speak, is on the line here with this one now that he doesn't have any excuses. So, but yeah, I just think it's a bad matchup for him. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to, you know, use that one punch or one knee power that he used on Askren and knock him out. And I think Kamaru just, again, is just going to grind him out. And he's just going to continue to grind him out, and he's going to wrestle him. He's going to take him to the ground. And I think he's going to, you know, either wear him down to a decision or he might finish the fight late. But yeah, I don't see the result going any differently. Like I said, I think Kamaru's in the conversation for best pound for pound right now. As I think I mentioned a couple weeks or months ago or something like that. But yeah, I don't see it going any different. I'm excited for it nonetheless, just because the star power in it. So, and obviously the whole card is loaded as well. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that fight before we jump onto that.
You mentioned the weight cut, the massive weight cut for Masvidal. Did you see those videos that were leaked? Jorge has a YouTube page, and he gives us a 10-minute video into him cutting 20 pounds in, I think it was like 4 days, right? 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, it was like a week.
And just like the gut wrenching process of him losing that weight. And I mean, they will throw him in like a steaming hot tub, and he'll just get in with his compression shorts and just sits there. And then they start draping towels over his head. I mean, by the time he stepped on the scale, he had like a dangerously low amount of water or fluids in his system. I mean, he made the weight, but I mean, this is also the guy, I would have sympathy for it, but this is also the same guy that stepped in, took that championship fight, and then he ate a slice of pizza to try to get into the mind games of Kamaru Usman before he got on the flight, if you remember that. So that was probably an extra 2-3 pounds he had to cut.
I love it. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, the whole card is stacked. We have two female title fights as well: Zhang Wei Li, Rose Namajunas. I think we got Zhang Wei Li's -200 in that one, and then Shevchenko returns against Andrade, who's a beast as well. Shevchenko's -420 though. Not a surprise that she's a heavy favorite. Any thoughts on those two fights?
Oh, geez. Andrade, I'd probably say will win that, even though that's a toss up in my opinion. I think the line should be closer than what it's currently showing, because I guess she's the underdog there. But one I feel very confident in, and might throw some cash on it, is the Zhang fight. Rose, I mean, you cannot love Rose and what she's done in the UFC. But Zhang is an up-and-coming warrior, and her in the Joanna fight last year was, in my opinion, the fight of the year. So I think it's going to be two great bouts. I love the co-main, but I think Zhang takes it. I'm most confident in probably that fight.
Interesting. Yeah, I lean her way as well. Rose is good, but her last fight, I think it was one of the Fight Island fights. Like, she won the fight, but I kind of expected her to win it more convincingly. So, yeah, I think Zhang Wei Li wins that one, and Shevchenko is just too much. Andrade is a beast, though, but Shevchenko is savage, man.
Well,
savage.
her just like her spinning back kicks and like so agile. I mean, okay, I might change my pick. I'm not gonna lie. I keep forgetting like the series of highlights of Shevchenko. And like the spinning back kicks, her leg kicks. I mean, she comes from like a ballerina background, which is so absurd. Like did that when she was growing up, and you can actually see it in her movement because she's just so agile. So you know what, Ev, I'll switch the pick. I'm going to lean your direction and go her instead of Andrade.
Not bad money though, plus 330 on a really good fighter. So for
Yeah.
Andrade, but yeah, it should be a good card. Looking forward to that one. I guess we can lean into Jake Paul, Ben Askren, like you mentioned. I didn't watch live, but it was a short enough fight and it was very easy to find on YouTube. Um, and I also laughed at just all the just all the performances. Like I was watching Bieber's performance from it, and Snoop is there, Pete Davidson being Pete Davidson, like all
Yeah.
that just ridiculous stuff. But if we look at the fight, well, I'll let you kick it off. What are your thoughts, I get you on each fighter and just kind of how it went down?
Well, first of all, Snoop Dogg was officiating, or if not officiating, announcing the fight. And you think, when you're announcing a fight that's going to get a substantial amount of pay-per-view buys, you're going to try to remain neutral, right? Especially if it's a back and forth matchup. They're trading blows. It's going from one round to the next. It's getting in these deeper rounds. They're getting tired. I mean, as an announcer, you want to almost bring all of those moments to life in the most neutral way, to reach out to every fan base. Snoop Dogg was in the ring the moment the bell rang. He was like, I got my money now. So essentially, he threw a ton of money on Jake Paul, and he was like congratulating and hugging Jake Paul in the ring shortly after the bout. So I think that's just like a quick example. The performances just go to show you how wild this event was in the first place, Ev. But in terms of the fight, I hate to say, like, this is a little bit of hindsight bias, but I did see it going Jake Paul's way. However, I thought that it was going to go to a decision. I thought that Ben Askren had taken a couple of licks. You saw what Robbie Lawler did to him, and he came back and he beat Robbie Lawler in a very controversial bulldog choke, where everyone thought he was out. He wasn't. Who knows? But Ben Askren came back and was bloodied, and he won that fight. And so what I thought was going to be the result of this is I knew Ben's cardio was going to be there because he's trained for 5-round, 5-minute fights in the UFC. So I thought that Jake, who was a more skilled boxer, undisputably, was going to come in there, rock him for the first 3 to 4 rounds, and then you're going to see him get tired and he was going to fade radically. That's where I thought Ben was going to start stealing some of the rounds, but I thought ultimately Jake would have snuck out at least one late round. And I thought it was going to be like in terms of the rounds that were won, I would have confidently said maybe 5-3 Jake. So I thought it was going to go to decision. I can't say I was surprised that he got knocked out in the first round, but Ev, where did you see this fight going in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know if I had too strong of a prediction. I was a little surprised how easily Ben got knocked out, but he gave a great interview with Ariel Helwani, by the way, on Monday, I think. So like immediately after, I gained so much respect for him. It was such a good interview. But he was talking about how obviously as a wrestler, like you almost are waiting for that overhand right to come because it's the best opportunity to take someone down. So because of that, in the UFC, Askren normally has a very low guard. So throughout his training camp, like the whole thing that he was having a problem with was keeping his hands up to prevent getting whacked. He just couldn't break that habit of like naturally having fairly low hands for waiting for someone to throw the overhand right and then take him to the ground, which I thought was really interesting. So I think in hindsight, like, yeah, we probably should have seen a quick knockout coming. I did think it was going to be either, Jake gets him in the first three some rounds, or Askren grinds him out to a decision win maybe. But yeah, I mean, like you said, in hindsight, it's not that surprising. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say Ben didn't train because he did, I think, but like the level of, how much the two of them cared, it wasn't on the same level of like how much this meant to them, obviously.
Yeah.
Whereas Ben was happy to just kind of collect a payday, not to criticize him, like he prepared and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, it's just not on the same level. And they're at different points in their careers, of course. So it's like, I mean, he always has that kind of flabby body anyway, and then it seemed even more dad bod at this particular occasion. And then Jake is, say what you want about his boxing, but he is a great athlete. So
My favorite part is when people were making fun of Ben and they were saying there was a clear delineation in the preparation for the fight. Jake Paul was trying to get a rise out of him in the pregame press conferences. You even look at the body types when they weighed in, and I believe the bout was at 190 pounds. Ben Askren looked like, when you look at before and after pictures of fighters, he looked like the before picture, Ev. He looked like the before picture when he stepped on the scale. And it's just, it's hilarious because, that's how he's looked for all of his fights, really. But, funny thing, though, with Jake Paul trying to get a rise out of him, that was actually where I found most of the entire buildup of this fight so entertaining. Ben was just like acting like he just kept referring him to Logan's little brother and just so many other little like passive aggressive tactics that got under the skin of this kid. And I thought it was really funny. I thought it was very well handled and in a mature way of handling someone as ridiculous as Jake Paul, especially online. But I think overall, moving forward, Jake Paul's going to now need to challenge a legitimate boxer. I mean, if he continues to say, I am the face of boxing, and he's just demanding everyone recognizes or acknowledges him as this successful boxer, he's like desperate for that acknowledgement. And I think in order to get that, he needs the transfer the big money fights with the celebrities to legitimate boxers who do want to have that bout in the ring. So, we'll see what he ends up doing, but I think that's the next step before anyone actually gives him any type of accolade.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he does because like his team handpicked Askren, and Askren said this in his interview. Like Askren was done. He was retired. He was in no way seeking out Jake Paul, and they handpicked him because they knew that it would be an easy knockout, huge money grab, and it would get Jake Paul some respect from a boxing perspective. And then from Ben's standpoint, it's like, I mean, yeah, I'll take the payday and see what happens. Like I'll give it a shot and hopefully I win. But if not, it's an easy payday and I'll wake up Monday morning or Sunday morning in this case, just go back to my life, that I was living before. But yeah, it's like, what is smart for Jake Paul's, like, what is the best move for Jake Paul from like obviously a making money standpoint, from you could argue like just overall standpoint is probably to keep doing what he's been doing. Like pick out guys that can make him a lot of money, but he can beat.
Dylan Dan, the next guy.
Guys like that. And he'll be making, millions of dollars each fight, huge pay-per-views. And people will continue to have this question on, oh, maybe he's a legit boxer, but it does genuinely seem like he wants to be known as a true boxer. So, but to do that, to your point, like, I think he's going to have to fight like a legit, like kind of amateur level, start there, maybe like boxer, that probably someone that's has even heard of. But someone that's a legit like boxer in their prime even. But what do I think is his best move? Continue doing what he's doing. He called out like Ty Woodley after that exchange in the locker room, and like Nate Diaz. I don't know about those two. I don't think he could beat either of those guys, but I'd like to see it. So we'll see. It'll be interesting though, because this is kind of, I think, a crossroads for him on like, is he really going to lean into the boxing route, or is he going to continue to lean the celebrity route, which seems the most likely outcome, and I can't blame him.
Yeah.
But
cool, man. Well, hey, switching sports over here. I know we wanted to mention a lot of NFL draft stuff, considering the draft is in 8 days. It's crazy to see how quickly it's coming upon us. Maybe before getting into just some of the things we wanted to randomly discuss, I mean, for the listeners out there, Evan and I talked about it, 5 minutes before the podcast. We said we don't really know what we're going to talk about. We're going to probably just ask each other random questions that we see fit. as the podcast goes. But I do think it's important to start mentioning some of the trades that have gone on, because it has been a while since we've been on the podcast. So I can probably knock the first one out. Was it Miami that traded before San Francisco did? I'll take the Miami one. So Miami traded out of the 3 spot, and then they traded with the Eagles. They essentially got a ton of draft picks for the next 2-3 years, including the 6th overall pick. It was something that was utter brilliance. They traded out of the 3rd spot to, I believe, 12 or 13 or something like that. And then they traded their 13th pick for the 6th pick, which means they want somebody and they think that person is going to fall to 6. And we're going to discuss that, if not today, on the next podcast. But I believe that is Kyle Pitts. Regardless, it was a monumental trade. And then San Francisco, got the 3rd spot, which was Miami's previous pick, and they gave up they gave up a ton for that. So they want a quarterback. We just don't know which quarterback that's going to be. Ev, am I forgetting anything over here? I think those are the 2 main ones, right?
Yeah, no, that whole kind of 3-team trade situation. It wasn't a 3-team trade, but yeah, that whole situation was the big one. Obviously, it's somewhat old news now. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to like what Miami did, because they were in a position at 3 where, with how much rise we've seen out of the quarterback spot in this draft, makes a lot more sense to trade out of that, especially when I'm surprised to hear you say Pitts, although, I mean, obviously he's definitely an option for them, but I like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith. It looks like he's going to slip after his being even more undersized than some of the numbers that Alabama posted on him suggested. But they could go Waddle, any of the receivers, or however they want to take it. So it's hard not to like what they did, and they're even in a position where they could trade back. I heard that they're still open to, if someone wants to trade up and grab one of the quarterbacks that doesn't go in the top 5, whoever that turns out to be, they could even trade back, but we'll see if they stay at 6. I kind of think Chase is the guy if the Bengals don't take him at 5. But we'll have to see. It's hard not to like what they did. And then the Niners. Mac Jones is really their guy. I mean, there's a whole lot of smoke screen right now. There's, it's the smoke screen week, but when they first made that trade, it kind of came out that Mac Jones was their guy, and now there's some buzz going Fields and Lance's way. It's hard to say, but if they traded up to 3 to take Mac Jones, that is a major yikes for me. Major yikes.
I agree, but I think it still could happen. And the craziest thing about the draft is it's not a smart move, because Mac Jones would have not. I personally think he would not get taken in the top 8. I don't think he would.
Yeah, I think Denver would have been his first spot, which is 9 or 10, something like that. Yeah,
100%. I would be very confident in saying that Mac Jones would not go in the top 8. So when they trade up to 3, it confuses you, because you're like, oh, if they're going for Mac Jones, why wouldn't they just trade for 9? You know what I'm saying? That would be something that would be very smart to do, because you're not sure if Denver's sold on Drew Lock, and it sounds like they're not sold on him, which makes complete sense. But to playing devil's advocate, if you look at the guys that have, teams have truly sacrificed positions and draft picks for, I'm looking at the Patrick Mahomes of the world. I mean, Kansas City gave up a good amount to get in that spot. I mean, it was it wasn't a top 3 pick, but it was a pick where you're like, okay, well, hopefully Kansas City knows what they're doing, because they just gave up a lot of collateral, but it worked out. And years later, everyone now just looks at the success of Patrick Mahomes, and no one even knows what he was traded for. You know what I'm saying? No one even knows or recognizes or remembers the opportunity cost that took to get Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. So I guess playing devil's advocate, if Mac Jones, who is one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the draft, if he really does shine in San Francisco and he fits that Kyle Shanahan playbook, he does kind of remind me of Matt Ryan a little bit. And the success that Kyle Shanahan had with him in Atlanta, you know, it could be a great pick. You never know. But I do think Mac is going to get selected at number 3. I have a tendency of agreeing with you there.
Well, Kirk Cousins is another comp that Kyle had success with, but yeah, I'm starting to lean that they're going to go with one of the other two guys, especially after that second Fields pro day. Kyle and Fields were kind of yucking it up there. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to say. And I don't even know who it would be between Fields and Lance. Like, kind of seems like maybe Fields, but I could easily see them going back to Lance, who I think would be great in their offense, like the play action game, mobility, but hard to say. Plus Lance, you could let him sit a year behind Garoppolo, which would be perfect. Although you could do that with Fields as well. But
they tried to find trade value for Garoppolo, and nobody was buying it. So that makes things complicated for San Francisco, and you can just tell that they're willing to to kind of walk him out of there, to no fault of their own. All right, so my question to you, E, is out of the top 10 picks, how many teams do you think trade out of their pick in the top 10?
How many trade out? I think there's going to be a couple. I think there's going to be some decent movement. I think last year it was pretty quiet. So let's say 2 in the top 10 trade back over the next week. I don't know who they're going to be, but
I actually I agree with you, and I think I know which teams they are.
Who do you got?
The first team is Atlanta, and the reason why I think Atlanta trades out is because they only have 49 players signed, and they barely met the cap space. Other teams have 75 players that are signed. So my point is they can't even afford somebody at number 4 where you're going to have to play them or pay them close to $5 million, $6 million on the rookie deal. Whereas you can trade out of that pick to 12 or 13, and you can pay a solid first rounder $2 million. It truly goes down that much. And so I think just for the sense of affordability, I think that's the only option that Atlanta has. And I don't think that they should draft a quarterback because they restructured Matt Ryan's contract. So he's going to be on the team, whether I like it or not, until 2023, which sucks. But that was the only way they could keep everybody under the salary cap this year, knowing that it slipped to 180, 185. So I think Atlanta trades down, and I think Detroit trades down, and I think Denver or New England trades with Detroit and they get a quarterback. And I believe that will be Fields or Trey Lance at that selection. That's my thoughts.
Interesting. I could see Detroit trading. I mean, I could see both of those. I think Atlanta's tricky because they need so much help. And whoever trades up for that pick, that's going to be a big quarterback spot. We know the first 3 are going to be quarterbacks at this point. So someone trading up to 4 would presumably be taking, one of the other 2 that haven't been taken. So you'd get a lot of value for it. But I also love the options that Atlanta has available to them. I would love to see them take a quarterback. I think Lance or Fields, whoever's there, would be great. Either one of them would be great for them. And then Pitts, I think Pitts would be great there as well. Now, granted, I think Pitts, it's almost unnecessary in the sense that you guys need so much help that, you add Pitts, it's
it's just ignoring it. That's a problem. We're going to give up 38 points a game next year.
Yeah, you're kind of kicking the can down the road to just, but I don't know, for some reason I like to fit there though, but that one makes sense. Yeah. I think Detroit makes sense. I could see them. I don't really see them taking a quarterback, and there's a lot of buzz on them getting a receiver. I could definitely see them staying in that spot and taking one of the receivers because they'll get a good one there. But they're another team that they need a lot of help. And I don't know, Waddle, Smith, are they really gonna, change the franchise that much? I'm not so sure. But
yeah.
So what? So you said you think New England could trade up. I could see that one as well. I don't know if they'll trade up that high, but do you have any other teams on your radar looking to trade up that you're watching?
Ooh, I think let's see here. I think Denver or I think Washington could possibly trade up. You're a big Washington football guy. What do you think Washington's going to do and what do you want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, they've said recently they're in the market to trade up. I think they won't trade up to the top 10. But trading up to, the 12-ish range, I think would make a lot of sense depending on how things go. I think they're going to have good options available to them at 19, specifically at positions of need. Like, there's some good linebackers they can take there, especially if Parsons were to drop. I doubt he drops that far, but like Owusu Koromoa is a guy that's 50-50 could be available at 19, which would be a perfect fit for what we need. And you're also, I think, going to have linemen there. Like your boy Christian Darrisaw out of Tech would be a great fit to give us a left tackle. But what do I want them to do? What do I think they're going to do? I think they probably stick at 19, but I could easily see them trading up, but probably not for a quarterback, either trading up to get, Micah Parsons in the low teens or trading up to get, I don't think they would trade up for a receiver, but especially with the chance that Devontae Smith at this point could fall even 19 at that point. But I could also see them trading up for a lineman, depending on how that goes. Although I don't think that would go, I assume Slater and Sewell will be gone by say 10, 12-ish.
Definitely.
And then Darrisaw, I don't think I would really trade up for necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple spots, but so we'll see. I think most logical, what makes the most sense is them probably sticking at 19 and taking one of the linebackers, which will be, Parsons, if by some miracle he falls, more likely Owusu Koromoa, or Jamin Davis is also a good one out of, I think, Kentucky. So I think that's the most likely outcome, but I could easily see them trading up. But I would be surprised if they traded up for a quarterback, unless Lance does fall. If Lance falls, then I would love to see us get Lance, but we'll see.
So I love how you brought up Koromoa, because this kid, I had no idea who he was, and I should have known who he was. I'm an ACC guy, and Notre Dame played a full ACC schedule this year. This guy is so impressive, and he would be such a great addition for Washington because he can cover. He can cover incredibly well. So any wide or any running back that goes out for a flat pass or for like some quick in and out or right up the middle of the field seam route, he can cover them and lock them down. He can lock a tight end down. He can even lock a slot receiver down in the NFL as long as it's not anything beyond 10 yards. This guy could be an incredible weapon for Washington, considering the game plan against Washington is most likely going to be how can we get the ball out as quickly as possible? Because Washington can rush 4 if they can get there faster than Atlanta rushing 8. That's the saddest part about this all. Like Washington can truly get there with 4. So other opposing teams know this. So I feel like they almost game plan to get the ball out rather quickly. A guy like Koromoa or Koromoa, Jeremiah Koromoa, out of Notre Dame can be a stud at the outside linebacker position. And it also allows you to retain, I don't know, who's going to be your middle linebacker? Is it going to be
we got Bostic's actually not bad. He is kind of a cut candidate, but he's he's steady. Good.
I was going to say Holcomb.
You could slide Holcomb to middle.
Yeah.
But at this point, we have, projected to start would be like Khaleke Hudson, who's like a 6th-round pick last year. He's more of a depth guy, so you would still, because most of the guys in this draft at the high end are more outside guys. So you would probably stick with Bostic in the middle and then keep Holcomb outside. And then, but like you said, what we need is exactly a cover linebacker. So like I'm kind of in the Parsons mode right now, just because it's like he's such a stud. But and while he is a decent like cover linebacker, he's not known for being a cover linebacker, if that makes sense. Like whereas Owusu Cormor, like you laid out, is like that's his main I don't know, skill attribute, whatever you want to say, but that's the main thing with him. So I think he would be the perfect fit. And I would say it's like 60-40. He's available at 19, maybe like 50-50. So but we'll see. Who knows what they're thinking.
Let's just say both of those guys are gone. Do you get Rashad Bateman, the freak athletic receiver out of Minnesota, who's over 6 feet tall, and he still runs a 4.4. He actually sat out, I believe, this year due to COVID concern. But he's phenomenal. His junior tape is insane, and he's out of Minnesota. Great guy. He would be a great number 2 receiver for Washington, considering you guys would actually have some height, have some weight on the opposite side of the field of Terry McLaurin. Interesting setup there. Or you guys could wait and get that kid Josh Palmer, in my opinion, the 3rd round out of Tennessee. Very similar build, incredible player. If you haven't seen his film yet, you have to, Ev. The kid is unbelievable. And I think he's actually I think his draft stock's rising by the minute. But would you go after Rashad Bateman at around 18 and have it be a slight reach? Or would you rather pass on a receiver in the first?
Yeah, I was really high on the Bateman thing. I still like Bateman, but I think receiver, I really don't think it's that big of a need compared to some of our other like areas. So I would rather go line, especially if Darisaul's there. Like I would definitely take him over Bateman. I don't know too much about some of the linemen beyond Darisaul. Evan Jenkins, I think, would be the next one to fill that left tackle spot. But yeah. I would almost say Kadarius Toney is maybe even more likely than Bateman, just because I think we really want to lead into the speed thing and like the kind of like weapon playmaker type thing. So I kind of think we would maybe even go Toney over Bateman if it were a receiver. But I think it's more likely that we take like a 3rd or 4th round receiver. Like you mentioned, I'm not familiar with Palmer, but I'll have to look him up. And then I think 1st round is, unless we linebacker, left tackle, unless we trade up to grab Lance or something like that. So I think that's where they're headed, but we'll have to see. Receiver, I mean, like if Devontae Smith fell there, hard to pass that up.
Oh yeah,
as well. So we're in a good spot to where we can just see how the draft goes and like react accordingly. So
yeah, I agree. I agree. I definitely think that. And I know we have some Miami fans, right? So we got some Miami fans and Carolina fans based in, Raleigh and Charlotte. So what do you think Miami's going to do? Because I know your buddies are going to be listening to this and they're going to be holding you accountable based on this answer you're about to provide. What do you think Miami does, assuming Atlanta trades out and Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase are available?
I think Chase is the guy there. Like, I mean, Devontae Parker is really good, but I just think like Parker and Chase would be such a savage combination. I mean, the last time I talked to my buddy, he was on Chase as well, but that was a long time ago. And so we'll have to see. I mean, I wouldn't blame him for Pitts. I think Pitts or Chase to get another weapon, but I would lean Chase on my side.
Lou, they're going Pitts. Give up on Gesicki. You guys have your receivers. It's called free agency. You can't. This tight end is one of the most freak athletes that's ever walked the face of the earth at the tight end position. For his specific weight, I think he has the highest vertical and the longest reach of any tight end that's participated in any combine endeavors. So I think from a raw talent standpoint, you can't go wrong with Pitts. But Jamar Chase is really good, dude. He's really good and he's super exciting. You almost like you almost have like a question mark behind him, but you're just like, after watching his I guess his sophomore film, when Joe Burrow and they won the national championship, what he was doing to SEC corners, aka Patrick Surtain, was deadly, and he was a sophomore at that point in time. So I think Miami's in a really good position to get one of those guys.
You brought up a really interesting though Bengals, and again, I'll highlight some of the stuff we have coming next week from a pod episode. So I think we're going to do a mock ourselves. Yeah. But at 5 with the Bengals, I think that's like kind of the turning point of the first round of like Sewell is the right pick in my opinion, because like you can't let Joe Burrow continue to go out there and get destroyed. Like he already if they don't go lineman after he already tore his ACL once, like, man. But the problem is that Jamar Chase is Joe Burrow's guy, and I think Joe Burrow is kind of like, screw the lineman, get me my boy Jamar.
They just drafted T. Higgins. Drafted T. Higgins.
Yeah.
And T. Higgins is good. And they got Tyler Boyd. I mean, like, dude, their receiving core, I feel like, is like steady.
Green is gone though. They need another outside guy. So they also need a tight end. Like Pitts would be great there too. Like one of those 3 guys would be such a great option. But
that's a great point, dude. I didn't even consider that, because Tyler Boyd's a slot kid and he's a good slot player.
Yeah. And then you would have Higgins and Chase on the outside. Like, I mean, Burrow would be getting killed in the backfield.
This is like the best lineman I've seen in a long time, though. Like Penei Sewell, he's massive and he can run, because that's what you're expected to do as an Oregon lineman in a spread offense. So, like, I don't know. I almost feel like they have to go with Sewell. Actually, on the subject of Sewell, Ev, do you think there's any potential if Atlanta trades down? Obviously, it's most likely going to be for a quarterback, right? Do you think there's any potential, any one of these 32 teams that trades up with Atlanta to get Sewell before Cincinnati does? Do you think that's even a thing, or do you think he's not worth the risk and they'd settle with Slater?
I don't necessarily think it would be smart, to be honest with you. Like, it seems like Slater has kind of crept up on Sewell a little bit, just in terms of how people view him. But yeah, I could see it though. Like I said, I mean, there's a lot of guys you could trade up for, in my opinion. Like someone could trade up and get Pitts at 4. Mm-hmm. Definitely Sewell. Like, I don't think you necessarily trade up for a receiver because it's so deep this year, but and obviously all the quarterbacks. So I could definitely see someone try and jump Cincinnati. Although I kind of think Cincinnati's not going to take him. I think they should, but I don't think they will. I'm kind of leaning that they're going to go, screw it, I'm taking.
You're convincing me on this, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. I guess what else you got? We wanted to talk maybe some like later kind of first round sleepers, maybe.
Yeah, let's do some like value picks. Like later, I would say like post 10, because we've been talking about the top 10 a lot. What are some like 11 to 32 value picks that you think a team could capitalize on based on supply and demand this year?
Good question. I'm poking through the rankings too.
I can go through a couple of them because I was looking at it earlier. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers at what are they? They got to be in the 20s somewhere. I was looking at this a little bit earlier. Pittsburgh's 24. I think they get Najee Harris. They just traded away James Conner. James Conner is now an Arizona Cardinal. They need a run game. Benny Snell is not the answer. Everybody knows that. Big Ben's coming back for another year. Everyone knows Big Ben can get his receivers the football, but he's taking serious declines year over year. Everyone knows that too. I think Najee Harris comes into that system in between the tackles runner, but he's got so much finesse and speed and elusiveness. I saw what he did in one of the playoff games where he hurled at a Notre Dame a player, and I was like, this guy's got to be top 5, right? He's like Zeke mentality. But because of supply and demand, his draft stock has gotten pushed a little bit. And I think that he could come in at 24 if he's available, and I think he can change that franchise because the defense is there. The defense was a huge portion of why they started out 11-0. But if you want to give Big Ben help and allow his receivers to get more open, play action football, and when Najee's averaging 5 yards a carry, that certainly does it.
I like it. Najee he reminds me so much of Derrick Henry, which is like, my guy.
He's got more finesse. He's got more finesse.
Yeah.
He's more agile. He's more lateral than Derrick Henry is.
Yeah. That's a good one. For me, it's like, I don't know if I have specific teams in mind. I think there's a lot of guys that like over the last like week have, for one reason or another, like kind of started to slip in people's minds. I think, first of all, and again, I know you want to do outside the top 10, but just to cover off on this one, if Fields does slip past like the top like 5 or even 8, like that's an absolute steal. I don't buy all this Fields negativity. I think it's a smokescreen and he will go high. Anyway, but also like defensive players, like the first defensive player off the board could be even like outside the top 10, like with all the receivers, the quarterbacks and the linemen that are going to go, and Pitts. So it's like the Dallas Cowboys, I forget what exact number they have, maybe like 9-ish. So I guess, again, still inside the top 10, but like that needs such defensive help. Like, I think they're in a prime position to get, Parsons, Pay, like one of the best defensive players, whoever they have, one of the best defensive players on their board. Like, I think they're in a prime position to, really get a good, defensive upgrade on their side. And then a couple other guys, like if Devontae Smith, again, like everyone's like, oh, he's too small. It's like, oh, you're really going to knock him like, half a dozen spots in your rankings because he was an inch and like 10 pounds lighter than, his college, numbers suggested. Like, come on. And then your boy Caleb Farley has dropped a lot lately too. I'm not quite as familiar as to why. But again, I always like these guys that like at the last minute seem to slip. And then Micah Parsons, for character reasons, is kind of in the same boat. Like, I don't know why. I just like, I feel like there's a lot of like people like overthinking it almost. Like it reminds me of, just from a Washington football team perspective, like we got Montez Sweat because everyone thought his like heart was too big or something like that. And that turned out to be a steal. And then like John Allen because he had like tendonitis or something, and we got him at like 20. Like, right. So we're reaping the benefits of guys that have like at the last minute kind of fallen for, kind of small reasons. So like I look at Smith, Parsons, Farley as guys that could be steals in that same vein.
I like that a lot. I would say another steal that hasn't been mentioned. Well, I guess you mentioned him a little bit earlier, but I really do like that Kadarius Toney kid. He's just an all-around playmaker. He kind of has this Curtis Samuel-esque playing style to him, but he does really come out of a twin position, which is why it's so weird to compare him to like the slot receivers. But he has that quickness. And I feel like that style of play would be really beneficial on New Orleans. They have a new quarterback. The new quarterback's going to be looking for quick throws, either down the field, drags, or I don't know, like the flat routes or something like that. Some type of quick throw to get the ball out of his hands. They have slant boy, Michael Thomas, who's going to be running that route. So, obviously, if Kadarius Toney gets drafted there at 28, which very well could happen, he has the ability to kind of get ready for some of those quick dump off throws, while Mike Thomas, is obviously drawing the number one corner and then also safety help the entire game. I think that would be a really good pick for, like a safety blanket for Jameis Winston or whoever starts in New Orleans. So I think that would be a pretty good pick. I think another one I saw, let's see here. Oh geez. I like, I mean, Christian Barmore, he's a D tackle out of Alabama. Strongly resembles who's the guy that you got? Deron Payne.
Jerome Payne.
Deron Payne in many ways, but Deron Payne got drafted in like the 15s. John Allen got drafted in the 15s to the 20 or something like that. Christian Barmore, because of the talent this year, is supposed to go 25 to 32. And for whoever gets him in this mock draft, it says the Jacksonville Jaguars would trade up and get this guy at 25. That seems like a pretty big steal to me. He's a phenom. He's a Bama-born talent, and he does resemble Deron Payne and that scary front four. So I think that'd be a good steal too.
Nice. The only other one I had, and I mentioned this earlier, and part of this is just from some of my research because of the Washington football team might be looking at him, but Jamin Davis, the linebacker out of Kentucky that I mentioned earlier, he's, I think the rankings I'm looking at now, he's like outside the first round, but he's been rising a lot lately as well. So a team would need a linebacker help. That'd be a good spot for him. The one other question I had for you is, will there be a sixth quarterback taken in the first round? And if so, who? And if not, who is your sixth quarterback to go?
No, it doesn't happen, and it would be Kyle Trask, and that's the Florida product. I think it's such a high demand. It's like the housing market right now. Everyone wants a quarterback. Everyone wants a house. So it's almost like artificially inflated, and so everyone wants a quarterback, which is why, like you mentioned earlier, Ev, like picks 6 through 10, they should just hang tight because they're going to get arguably a top 2 or 3 or 4 pick in a normal draft. I've never seen in a draft before the amount of quarterbacks that are projected to go in the top 10. It is just crazy. And so I think once those 5 quarterbacks are drafted, I think it's such a deflating feeling for the teams that missed out on those top 5 that I think the next quarterback that gets drafted is Kyle Trask, and I think that's in the second round at some point in time. So that's my opinion, but what do you think? And do you think it's a different quarterback than Trask?
I'm going to say that one does get taken. And I think part of the reason that everyone wants a quarterback is because next year's class isn't that strong. So I could see teams trying to get ahead of it. My favorite, because I guess the 3 are Trask, Kellen Mond, and Davis Mills, who's been rising a lot lately out of Stanford. Mel Kiper actually has Davis Mills going at 32. I think someone trades up for him, but I think Trask maybe makes the most sense, especially considering like he's the most NFL ready of the bunch, I would say. My favorite is Mond personally. I would love to see Washington get him in.
Trash.
Dude, I like Kellen Mond, man.
Trash.
I like Kellen Mond. I like the arm and I like the athleticism and the experience at A&M. But I think someone trades up, and I'm going to say it's not Mond, even though he's my favorite, and it's either Mills or Trask that they trade up for, or even trade back. Like I could see Pittsburgh, as much as they could trade up, like Pittsburgh could take a quarterback. Like I think Trask in Pittsburgh would make sense, but we'll have to see.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. They could go after a quarterback. They did get Dwayne Haskins. Maybe they build him up again. I mean, that could happen. Staying in the SEC though, you mentioned Kellen Mond. Who do you think the first corner is drafted? Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn? Because J.C. Horn is rising just as much as Farley is falling.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be Surtain though.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just too good, man.
Yeah,
he looks too good. I don't know. You got a difference of opinion there or what?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who the top one is. I can actually see Surtain falling because he's statistically the worst. He's got the worst 40 time out of the 3. He's the biggest out of the 3, which does kind of worry you a little bit when you're drafting an outside corner. Unless, your name is Jalen Ramsey, because Jalen kind of looks like a safety. But I do like J.C. Horn a lot. And I do like Farley. I just think Farley doesn't have as much experience, which is why he's falling. Mm-hmm. But I think he's the most athletic. But J.C. Horn is not far behind. I think it just becomes a question of, are you going to draft the Bama product which is like a staple, like A+. You look at the recent Bama DBs, I'm looking at Marlon Humphrey. I'm looking at Tre'Davious White. I'm looking at Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's like a stamp of approval. He's going to be a good pick. But I think J.C. Horn has a ton of potential, and I think Farley does too.
It'll be interesting. The cornerbacks will be interesting. But
yeah, man.
I think that's it. That's about time. I think that's it for me, man. Anything else?
Nothing much, dude. You need to come back down to Charlotte, dude. I guess actually I owe you a Raleigh trip.
Yeah, we gotta. Well, you're always here though, visiting people. Though I don't mind coming that way. We gotta get Cy. We can all meet up in Charlotte if Cy when we can grab Cy's time.
Yeah, 100%. No, Cy's looking to travel. I think he's.
Yeah.
I mean, he made that trip down to Charlotte so many times as he's going to the University of South Carolina. So it's nothing to him. I mean, he's driving those nice cars, and he puts in that Eminem playlist, and I'm sure he goes 20 miles per hour over the speed limit.
I love it, dude. I love it. But yeah, like I said, let's highlight quickly for the viewers that hung around with us next week. So I guess Monday. So we'll probably release that Thursday. We're going to do a mock draft where we're just going to kind of each take kind of just go round robin and do a first round mock or maybe a top 20 mock, something like that. And then Thursday, our live draft special. I'll try and stream it live. I don't know if we'll be able to, but at the very least, you'll see, a couple days later where similar to last year, we're going to have guests on for their, favorite teams as picks and kind of just be reacting to the draft as it happens Thursday night. So we'll probably publish that over the weekend. So lots of good content coming next week. Excited for the draft. Should be a lot of fun to record. So that's it for me. If you want to sign us off and then take the last word, but.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks all for listening. I appreciate the uptick in subscribers. That's a great thing. We went from 39 to 42, so we're doing something right over here. Really appreciate you guys listening every week. Well, every single time we post a podcast, so every 2 weeks. But we're gonna, as the weather gets nicer, we're gonna, in sports intensify. And they get in the playoff mode, we're going to be, obviously ramping this up. Let us know in the comments what you guys want. Do you guys want another top 5 moment? We were creating that list while, sports had taken a quick moratorium, but just let us know what your most interested topics are, and we're happy to discuss them. So without further ado, thank you for listening. This was Mondays Down South. Thanks.